Okay, it's finally happened. What's going on, you ask? Well, it's going on. Persona, one of the most popular JRPG series to exist, is finally accessible to the majority of players out there. The three of its most prolific entries no longer constrain to the Sony line of consoles, but await you on Steam, Switch, and Xbox Game Pass. And that's really cool. As someone who fell in love with Persona almost 3 years ago now, it's great that it's all in one place. If you're recommending Persona to a friend, you no longer have to go, oh yeah, you can buy 4 on Steam and 5 on the PlayStation 4, but for 3 what you want to do is boot up your old broken PS3 and then buy the game on the online store, which you can't actually do anymore on the PS3. You have to buy it using a web browser and then go back to your PS3 and realise you don't actually have enough space to download the game, so you go on Amazon and buy a hard drive specifically for your old broken PS3, specifically to play a game from 2006. Now you can just be like, oh yeah, it's on Game Pass. As someone who's played all 3 of these games, it was a good excuse as any to go in for another playthrough. But when it came to the 3rd entry in the series, I was surprised to see that Persona 3 Portable, a game I previously hadn't played, was the representative Atlus chose for Persona 3 as a whole. You see, this isn't the first time a Persona game has been re-released. In fact, it's a bit of a habit for the series. There's usually the original, and then a few years later, they decide to add in a bunch of stuff and release it again. Technically, this has happened a few times with Persona 3. You had the original, and then Persona 3 Fairs, the Phil Fish tie-in, and then finally you had Persona 3 Portable, the release for, you guessed it, the PlayStation Portable. Now, all of this I realise is a little bit confusing, and I do apologise for this, but to make things simple, if I say Persona 3 Portable, I'm talking about this, and if I say Persona 3, or the original Persona 3, I'm talking about these, because for the purposes of the video they are basically one and the same. Now, generally, on the whole, most people consider the latest version of whatever game to be the strongest. If you want to play Persona 5, you should buy Persona 5 Royal. If you want to play Persona 4, you should buy Persona 4 Golden. Again, I didn't realize there was going to be this much conspiracy wall nonsense when talking about Persona, I'm sorry. But what about Persona 3? You see, Persona 3 Portable is a completely different version of the game, thanks to the technical limitations of the PSP, and I didn't realize just how different of a game it was until I actually played it. The original Persona 3 is a game that starts like this. This intro is absolutely wild. When I saw this for the first time I started playing, I had absolutely no idea what was going on, yet I was instantly captivated. It had that sense of style that has been polished by its sequels, but here exudes a special kind of mysterious aura that the other games simply don't have. This intro right here sets the tone for the entire game. A game that's janky, obtuse, and a little bit fucked up, but like, in a good way. A game where you can't even control your party members in battle. A game where its only dungeon is a looming tower of labyrinths stacked on top of each other. A game where they basically forgot to write the first half, and the second half has it catch up in spectacular fashion, like a student cramming in for the final night of the exam and then somehow absolutely fucking nailing it the next day. A game that, on paper, one might think is inferior to its contemporaries, but there's just something about it that I can't describe. Like, the entire thing, flaws and all, amount to an experience that is not just greater than the sum of its parts, but something that you've just never seen before and probably never will see again, like a golden retriever driving a Ford Escort. It tells a better story than most video games out there, low bar I know, but then you find out that it came out in 2006, and it's like, what do video games even mean? This is Persona 3, and it all starts with this opening scene. Persona 3 Portable has this. Look how they massacred my boy. There's no cutscenes at all. It's been reduced to a sort of PowerPoint presentation. The third-person camera is absent, save for the dungeon crawling. The social half of this game exists entirely in this screen, well, I suppose this screen and this screen, where you no longer walk around in the world and instead look upon it like some kind of omnipresent being. It's missing Persona 3's atmosphere, its jankiness, hell, even the game's aspect ratio. It's missing everything that, for me, makes Persona 3, Persona 3. Now, okay, let's take a step back here. Obviously, they didn't make it like this back in 2009, so that 14 years later a British man on the internet would be upset by it. There are obvious technical reasons why they needed to fit this PlayStation 2 game into the much less powerful PlayStation Portable. And obviously, if I was sitting here back in 2009, not only would I be 11 years old, but I would also give you free rein to laugh at me in my own comments section. Because it would be a little bit unreasonable for me to compare a PSP game to the then still kind of accessible PlayStation 2 version. But now I'm playing it on the big screen. I'm not playing this on a train. As we all know, the context with which we play games is important, and here I don't think Persona 3 Portable is a good fit. But as I continued playing, I realised it was a bit more complicated than that. There's some nuance here. A lot of the problems that I have with Persona 3 Portable are simply ridiculous. They're completely unreasonable. For example, the game feels a lot less muddy, like the HD upgrade makes the game lose its mysterious nature. The UI and the character portraits are just nice and big and clean, and your party members no longer have that sense of individualism now that you can tell them what to do in battle. I think these are valid criticisms of the game, sure, but like, what do I really want? Should they have re-released the original Persona 3 instead of the portable version? Maybe, but that doesn't really matter, because you might not see Persona 3 in the same way that I do. You might look at the original's rough edges and not be a fan. Hell, you might think that Persona 3 Portable's visual novel approach actually simplifies things a bit and makes the game a lot easier to play on the go, or just in general. You might, like I do, think it's really cool that you can finally play a Persona game with a female protagonist. Who am I to deny you that? You might agree with me here, or you might think that Persona 3 Portable is the superior version. This leads into something important when it comes to game preservation, and that's to make sure every version of the game is available to play. Not to make light of the amount of work it takes to port a whole-ass video game here, but if Persona 3 was available alongside Persona 3 Portable on PC, I wouldn't have this problem. I'd be able to make the decision. I think the deluge of remakes and remasters of beloved titles that we've been getting recently are cool, but I hope we're not leaving the originals behind. Ultimately, I don't know. I don't know if I'm right on this one, if I can even be right or wrong. Obviously, access to the original Persona 3 to play alongside Persona 3 Portable would be nice, but like, really? I don't think I'd want to do that anyway. That sounds a bit too clinical to me. Because deep down, I know it's not about that. It's not about which version of the game I think is better. Here's the twist. Even though I'm sad that Persona 3 Portable has lost a lot of what made the original game special to me, I'm still enjoying it. I am. I'm having a great time seeing Persona 3 reimagined in a different light. I love that you can control all of your party members in battle despite lamenting the addition. In a similar vein, I love how stylish it looks on high-definition monitors. I love the tweaks to the social link system that make it more in line with its contemporaries. I love the female protagonist. I love that it's not just a palette swap, it's a different character entirely. They've given her a different personality compared to the original protagonist. I love how all of the dialogue is ever so slightly tweaked in a way that reflects this change in a painfully subtle way, at least from a perspective of a cis male such as myself. I love how the dark, depressing atmosphere of the game ever so slightly lifts thanks to the changes and the game takes a more melancholic tone. You can even hear it in the new music. It's not the original Persona 3, it might not be exactly what I wanted, but that doesn't mean that it's not beautiful. Hello there, bit of a short one this time. I basically played Persona 3 Portable, and I got like the first hour probably, and I got sad, and I turned this around in like a few days, which I suppose makes for a refreshing change. But yeah, thank you for watching. Now before you go, this is really fun. Okay, I think you'll like this. I think you'll find this funny. This tool was shared with me the other day. It's like this YouTube thing that predicts how many views a video is going to get based on a thumbnail and title. So obviously I put the title of this video and the thumbnail in. I've not done the thumbnail for this video yet, but you'll see what it thinks. And it's going to be like an absolutely ridiculous number, which I think is hilarious, because like, whenever I get a comment saying like, oh yeah, you deserve more views, which is, really cool, and I appreciate people saying that. But now we know, right? We know scientifically that these people are correct, okay? They're right. I do deserve more views, and we have the numbers to back it up, okay? Anyway, I don't know about you, but I thought that was hilarious, and hopefully you found that funny as well. Yeah, that's it. Okay, take care.